Hi YouTube, I'm Katy with Rosebud's Travels, and several months ago I went on a shopping trip and bought various storage things to work with our casita, and especially in storage in the kitchen. And I shopped at Ikea and I shopped on Amazon and various other places. And I wanted to show you what worked best for us. And it's all been tested now on a 5,000-mile trip. And some stuff worked really well, and some stuff just didn't work out the way that I planned. So let's get started. The first cabinet I'm going to show is the cabinet that is above the microwave in our 2019 Spirit Deluxe Casita. And I'm going to start by showing you what goes in. And Lewis, could you pan across here? So almost all these items here go into this little cabinet up here. And what I do is I start by putting in cups, which fit very snugly back here in the back. These are cups that I don't need to use very often because it's just the two of us. But if we should want to be able to give coffee to somebody else, we can give a guest coffee. And I put a little cup towel dishcloth between them to cushion them. And the next thing that I put into this cabinet, this is a mixing bowl. I've got a little cushiony thing to keep it from bouncing around too much. A strainer for washing fruits and draining pasta, that sort of thing. This is a small measuring cup that can measure solids one direction or liquids the other. Got all these things from Amazon, and this is a funnel. Haven't used it, but you never know when you'll need a funnel. All of that goes up here in this cabinet way towards the back corner. The next thing I put in the cabinet are the dishes. This is 4 Corelle dishes.
I'll hold the door for you.
They're very thin and very lightweight and very sturdy, as we found out when the door wasn't properly latched one day and all the dishes ended up on the floor. The next thing I do to keep things from bouncing around, this is a silicone trivet, and I put it on top of the plates, and then I stack on another layer of plates. These are the luncheon size plates, the small size plates of the same set of dishware. And we found as we traveled that we really preferred using the small plates for most of our meals, along with bowls for salad. So on top of the small plates, I put the stack of bowls. And this is going to look kind of funny, but these are grabbers for pots, and they're silicone as well. But what they do is they keep things from bouncing around. And so I put a couple of those in place on the bowls to keep things from moving. And then I have one small metal bowl, which I ended up using to just hold like coffee grounds, that sort of thing, in the morning. Then I take, this is one of the Ikea containers. This particular one is the 1 liter size, and it is 8 1/4 inches this direction, 5 7/8 across, and about 2 1/4 inches tall. And I use this in various places. In this particular instance, I'm going to use it to put 2 cups And what I do with the cups is I weave a piece of this is a little, again, a little dishcloth. It's actually one that we're using as a napkin, but I weave it between the coffee cups to help keep them from bouncing around. And this is a nifty little coffee maker. You put coffee grounds in it and pour hot water through, and it makes drip coffee. And that just sits in here along with the coffee cups so that it's ready in the morning. That way everything is kind of wedged in nicely and it won't bounce around too much. And it fits just perfectly next to the dishes. And then I have two, these are plexiglass wine glasses or drinking glasses. And they just kind of sit in here. Works best if I put one each direction. They don't bounce around so much. And then I always wear an apron when I cook. I'm messy and so I get clothes dirty, and so I stick my apron up here, keep stuff from bouncing around, and another little stack of dishcloths and that sort of thing. Again, it helps to have different items arranged up there to keep things from bouncing around. So that's the top cabinet. Okay, the next space I want to talk about what we're doing with is the space where the microwave would go. After some discussion, we decided that we would not be using a microwave anywhere near as much as we needed the storage space. And so we decided against getting a microwave when we bought the Casita. However, we did decide that we would use a toaster oven. And this is a smallish toaster oven. It's a 4-slice Hamilton Beach one that we got at Walmart. And to use it, I pull it out onto this countertop or take it outside to use. If I'm using it in here, I plug it in at the very back of the cabinet where there's an outlet. But most of the time it sits all the way back in the far right-hand corner. And when I bought the toaster oven, it came just with this one little baking pan, which is good. But I also found a very small Nordic ware baking pan set that has something like a lasagna pan, or for cooking cobbler or something, cookies or biscuits, and then a little roasting rack. And I put a paper towel to keep it from bouncing around too much, and that travels inside the toaster oven where it fits perfectly. The next thing I did was I wanted a place to keep taller things. This is just your standard splatter screen for cooking bacon. Not that I do that very often, but when I do, I want to have a splatter screen. And what I have here is a napkin holder from Ikea, which I ended up not using as a napkin holder, but I thought I could put it to use. And what it does is it holds cutting boards and the splatter screen, and it keeps them nice and contained over in the far corner here on the left-hand side. So I have that in there now. The next thing I have that goes into this space, this is just a handled basket. We'll put a link to the Amazon link for it. It just holds bottles very nicely and keeps things from bashing around too much. The important thing when riding around is that you don't want stuff to bounce much, and so that works very well for that. And there's room for a small box of cereal if I want to put one. Then this is one of the Ikea boxes. This is a 5-quart box, and it is 12.5 inches long and 8.25 inches wide and about 4 3/8 inches tall. And I use it to carry food items. On the last trip, I had bags of pre-measured pasta where I had measured out an appropriate amount of pasta for a meal in several bags of pasta, and I had nuts and all kinds of kind of smallish pre-packaged food items that I was carrying with us. And it sits very nicely right here on top of the oven. I have a second one of those boxes. This one, the one that I put in the front, I put in taller food items. Basically, you want whatever you're putting to be packed tightly so that if there's glass or something spillable, that it doesn't bounce around. So I have some honey, canned goods, jam, tuna fish, milk, chocolate sauce, which of course is a critical item to have. And that fits very nicely right here in front of the toaster oven. Another item I got from Ikea is this wonderful little box for coffee, and it holds exactly 1 pound of coffee. And I've tried it with different brands. I got some from Ikea just to try it, and it worked great, but it works with other just grocery store brands, and it seals really well, and it fits snugly in that spot right there. And this is a similar box from Ikea, and I have tea in that box, and it also fits down in here. A lot of the other space in here was taken up by bags of chips and cereal, that sort of thing. So it doesn't look really full, but it contained quite a bit, and you can see that there's room for a lot more food. Basically, what you want to do is whatever you put in here, you want to make sure it doesn't move around much. So that's that space. And this, of course, this is the really cool handle that Lewis and I salvaged from a display and put to use again. But we can get them again if we want. So, but I think it looks really good, and it works great for holding dish towels. So this is a big part of my pantry area. Okay, and now moving over here to where the sink is. This is a really cool thing. This is it can be used for a trivet. It can be used over a sink. It just rolls up. It's just metal rods with silicone connectors at the end. I looked for a size that would fit perfectly over the Casita sink because I have one in the house, but I did not find one, and so I got one that was a little long and just cut off some of the bars. And you can see it fits perfectly in the space. Water can run through it if I want water to run through it. I can set hot things down on it. It's just a really useful work surface. And if I were to set a pan down on it from the stove, it wouldn't cause any harm. I have a cutting board that I use, but I find that I like this very much. All right, the next kitchen space we're going to talk about is the area that's over the stove and the sink. It's a nice, good sized space, and the containers that I decided to use there were, these are Rubbermaid Brilliance containers, and this is it's a 9.6 cup container. I bought a set, and the set had 5 containers. It had one of these, and then 2 of this size, and 2 of this size. And then I bought a second one of the 9.6 cup ones because I found it was a really good size. So what I have in this container is flour, I had pancake mix, again, pre-measured. The flour wasn't pre-measured, but the pancake mix was, and brown rice in appropriate measurements. And that fits nicely into this space here. And then I have a second container with snacks and protein bars. And then I have these two little containers that go right here. More snacks. Snacks are really critically important. One of the other good things about these containers is they can actually be used in a microwave to cook in, and they can be used for wet food storage. Like one evening we had leftover spaghetti, and I just put it in here and refrigerated it overnight, and we had it for lunch the next day, reheated. So very handy. So all these containers just fit in here very nicely. I use these little containers for sugar. So we're going to put those up here. And then I have, these are mostly items that I use for baking. This is another one of those handled baskets. I bought a set on Amazon that had 3 different sizes. So this, the first narrow one that you saw in the cabinet over here was one. This is another one. It's a little wider, and I'm using it for holding liquid vanilla and some sweet spices and just some baking items. And then this little nifty container here sits right on top, and it has some bouillon for using in the Instant Pot. And so it fits into the space over here in the corner. I try to keep everything wedged in nicely. Then it's probably very indulgent of me, but I really love Penzeys spices, which I can get here in Houston. But they come in a really nifty size bottle, and I like to have a lot of seasonings. We try not to use added salt or very little added salt, and so I try to have a lot of different spices and seasonings on hand. So this is another one of those handled wedgie boxes, and it fits in here just beautifully with my spices in it. And then finally, I see that I don't have this quite right. I have 2 more of these little boxes, and they are called mini keepers. And I'll have it, Lewis put an Amazon link at the bottom of the description so that you will be able to see what they are. But at any rate, they're really great for holding things like cornstarch and baking soda. And so those just sit right here, nice and snugly. You'll notice that I took off the paper towel holder that Casita comes with here. It's because I would rather use all of this interior space for storage than have it taken up by the paper towels that flip up. And so I keep the paper towels actually down below the stove, and I have a paper towel holder that I like to use for that. To help hold all this stuff in place, I have just one of those dish draining mats that you can pick up almost anywhere. They're really cool because when you're drying dishes, it absorbs so much of the water. And I just fold it up and stick it up at the top here to keep things from bouncing around. And you can see if I want to put a little bit more food in here, there's plenty of room to do that. So that's that storage space. I also use some containers in the refrigerator to help keep things under control and keep them from moving around too much. So let me open the refrigerator door here and show you what I did. One of the things, these are one of the Ikea containers. They are a 2-liter container. And again, the Ikea stuff is modular. It's the Ikea 365 containers. So the nice thing about the containers is that they stack really well, and they have a whole series of lids that work with them. If you want, you can cook in them. So what I did was I put tall bottles and jams in these containers that sit on the shelf right there, trying to make sure that the air could circulate around them a bit. And then I also used this smaller container and another one down at the bottom to kind of hold stuff from sliding around too much. I wasn't entirely successful, but it did help. I found that the best size water bottle that fits down here in this nice little cutout space is one of the rectangular ones. I also found that beer cans slid behind it really well, so there was storage in the back that we were able to use. And inside of the freezer, I have a few little ice trays. These make cubes that can go into a water bottle, and then that's just a standard little ice tray, not currently operational. And again, this same little 1-liter box fits very nicely in here to help corral things in the freezer. As far as storing things in the door goes, I tried to keep most things out of the door. We found that it held yogurt and cheese and lightweight things pretty easily. And I also put bagged salads and I'm stuck here. I used the top shelf for salads and produce items usually, and tried to keep things, again, from bouncing around too much. What you see here are compression rods, often used for like a curtain in a window. They're sold also to use in RV refrigerators. I got a set of 3, and they work all right. They don't prevent all movement, but they do help keep things from moving around quite a bit. And it's always a good idea to have a little thermometer of some sort measuring the temperature of the refrigerator, and also you see we have one in the freezer there. So that's what we did with the refrigerator storage. Okay, and for a fun bonus, we of course travel with Sam and Max, our 2 little dogs, and so we needed a way to store dog food. And the Ikea 365 containers came through again. This particular one holds 11 quarts, and as it turns out, that was just enough for 1 month worth of dog food for our guys, who eat about 3/4 of a cup a day between them. And so we had this full to the top with dog food, and this is one of the Ikea lids, and it just snaps right on with an airtight seal if you don't have the dog food rug in there. And we put our little scoop in there as well with the dog food. Seals tight, and it fits into this space just about perfectly. So it was a great way to store dog food. You want to get down there and show them? And then we used the space right in front of it. I had a little bag that I put the pickup bags that we use and some dog toys and their brushes, and I actually stored their bowls on top of it and this little bag that I put in there, and it was a really, really good fit, worked great, and I'm very pleased with the way that container worked for dog food storage. Recommend doing that if it serves the if the size of it is right for your pups.